I think that Graham Mertz is going to be the most improved Florida Gator from the 2023 season to 2024.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country NFL 33. If you want to be a Locked On Gators insider where you get all the important information like who Florida's targeting in the college basketball transfer portal, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators. And like I said, I do think that Graham Mertz is going to be the most improved Florida Gator from last season. Not that he's made some incredible, he can throw the ball 80 yards off a back foot. No, nothing insane like that. But I can't stress how important it is to have year two as a starter in the same offensive system. And yes, Billy Napier promoted Russ Callaway to be co-offensive coordinator. Maybe Russ will be the play caller. Who knows? We haven't figured that out yet, right? Here's the thing. I don't care, and that doesn't matter. Because foundationally, the offense is going to be pretty much the same. Some changes, sure, but foundationally going to be pretty much the same. I'd expect Russ Callaway to make some tweaks here in terms of play calling tendencies and things like that, but systematically it's going to be the same offense. Okay? Same offense that, by the way, last year had a lot of success with Graham Mertz at the helm throwing the football. Let's look at some quarterbacks that went into year two and took a big leap. And for Florida Gators fans, I think a lot of us are going to look at Kyle Trask because Florida in the past decade or so hasn't really had quarterbacks with back-to-back years as a starter. Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson, they were just cycling through, right? For Kyle Trask, he took over for Felipe Franks in the Kentucky game, I believe it was, that Felipe Franks got injured. So he took over for Felipe Franks there. Made huge strides in that next season as a starter. Like, you look at what Kyle Trask did in his second year starting for the Florida Gators. A Heisman campaign. Didn't win it, but a Heisman campaign where he just lit up the scoreboard the entire time, right? Like stats were just coming in and out. And his final season in Florida in 2020, yeah, he had Kyle Pitts. Yeah, he had Kadarius Toney. But like almost 70% of his passes completed, 43 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 10 yards per attempt, granted. Got a little bit of help from receivers running after the catch there, like Kadarius Toney, but he still had 10 yards average depth of target. Like, this wasn't something where you're like, oh yeah, like, this wasn't something where we looked at it, we were like, all right, yeah, he's just check down Charlieing this. I think that's going to be probably the biggest area where we see Graham Mertz take that next step in the offense is throwing the ball a little bit more downfield. Again, I don't think that Graham is going to be, slinging that thing over them their mountains, but he's going to be moving the ball a little bit further downfield. He should have a little bit more time to actually work in the pocket and look deep downfield. But Graham had 7 yards average depth of target this past season. Probably going to see that kick up to, I want to say it's going to kick up to about 9. I think that that's reasonable to say, 9 yards per target is a reasonable expectation for Graham Mertz this season. I don't expect him to be in a Heisman campaign, mostly because I don't think that the team will have enough wins to do that. And that is, unfortunately, a big part of whether or not you're considered the best player in college football if your team wins. Bo Nix is another one who last year was his second year with the Oregon offense. And I think he might be the best situational comp for Graham Mertz. And I know that a lot of people are going to want to make it Kyle Trask because of the play style. I'm saying ignore the play style. Situationally, what Bo Nix did at Oregon might be the most similar to what Graham Mertz is doing, because Bo Nix spent a couple of years as a, let's call it what it is, bad starter. Graham Mertz spent a couple of years as a bad starter with Wisconsin. When Bo Nix went to Oregon, everyone laughed at Oregon. It was like, why? We saw this at Auburn. We saw that it didn't work. And then Bo Nix had a decent first year. And in his second year, threw the ball significantly more, which obviously means he's going to have more touchdowns, more yards, all that stuff. But you saw a huge jump in the efficiency numbers as well for Bo Nix from year 1 to year 2. That's not something that's just, oh, he threw the ball more. The efficiency there improved significantly for Bo Nix in year 2. I'm talking more. First off, completion percentage jumped almost 6%. Okay. And that wasn't because of the drop percentage. His team dropped the ball more in 2023 than 2022, and his completion percentage still went up 6 points. If they dropped the ball the same amount that they did in 2022, would have gone up about 10%. He would have completed about 80% of his passes if his drop percentage didn't get worse in 2023. He had 45 touchdowns, threw about another yard per attempt, threw the ball less downfield, but it was insane. His adjusted completion percentage was 85.5%. His efficiency took a massive leap. Again, that's 60 more pass attempts, 16 more touchdowns, 4 less interceptions, 900 more passing yards. It was a huge jump for Bo Nix. You can look at Jackson Dart with Ole Miss. His second year, he had the same number of attempts, one difference. Higher efficiency numbers, more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions. Michael Penix is another one that you can look at, who was a multi-year starter previously, because Michael Penix, don't forget, was a multi-year starter at Indiana, dealt with injuries and had those issues. So, I'm not going to pretend that it was just sunshine and roses there. But Michael Penix Jr., multi-year starter at Indiana, had some wild possessions, wild games, but again, had some injury issues, went to Washington. First year, lit it up. Second year, had 2 less pass attempts, 1 more drop back, but completed 0.6 more percent of his passage, which, 0.6, whatever. That's a marginal increase, but his yards per attempt went up about half a yard, which is significant. His average depth of target went up almost a yard, which is significant. His big time throw percentage went up about 2.5%. Significant. Like this is just, and his average, his adjusted completion percentage went up as well. He did throw 3 more touchdowns, but again, he was making more big time throws. And when you're making big time throws, that pretty much in turn includes more turnover worthy plays, which he did have. But again, that's him being more aggressive and him having someone like Rome Odunze. Yeah, he's going to be a bit more aggressive. He's going to try to push the ball more. Jaden Daniels, significantly less attempts in his second year with LSU. Way higher in efficiency, yards, touchdowns, everything, and Heisman. The grammar, everything indicates that in year 2 of a starting quarterback, even after they transfer, which is specifically what I looked at, Kyle Trask is the outlier here. But Bo Nix, a couple years as a starter, transferred. Jackson Dart, transferred. Michael Penix Jr., transferred. Jaden Daniels, transferred. All those guys transferred, came in, and then in year 2 saw significant leaps in efficiency. I think we could see the same thing with Graham Mertz. I think he'll benefit. He loses Ricky Pearsall, and that sucks. But you benefit from having another year with most of your receivers, another year with most of your offensive line, and granted, new starter is going to be improving there. But you've got that continuity where we're not trying to shuffle everything around. We kind of know who it's going to be. It's just a matter of where they line up. And then you've got that improved efficiency again with consistency with your offensive coaching staff. Offensive coaching staff, the only thing that changed was that Russ Callaway went to co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach. and that Darnell Stapleton left and was replaced with Jonathan DeCoster. Outside of that, offensive coaching staff stay the same. A lot of the offense is returning. You're returning a lot of production offensively. Again, outside of Ricky and Trevor Etienne, who, as far as being a pass catcher goes, was pretty non-existent. So that's why I'm not mentioning him too much. Because when it comes to who Graham was throwing the ball to, Trevor wasn't one of them. Montreal was the pass catching back. But I do think that there's another player that kind of goes hand in hand with Graham Mertz improving and being the most improved. But I think that we'll also just see stylistically this player improve. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, we're going to get a quick word from a couple of sponsors. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Better Together. If your bracket is already busted, it sucks, right? Like, you get to watch March Madness and go, doesn't matter. I had a friend that for some reason picked Kansas to win it all, and they got bounced early. Most of my brackets, as in my groups, most of them are still alive. But if your bracket's already busted, if you're tired of the same old daily fantasy grind where you make a roster, cross your fingers, and just hope for the best, or if you're losing on your last leg of your pick'em entry, which is a son of a, you know what? Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats. Strategize with your partner to boost your odds. One thing I like to do is, I was like, hey, Walter Payton Jr. is going to go off. I'm a Florida fan. I know that what he's going to do. I know what they do. Have fans of different teams? Could be a good strategy. Just saying. Grab a friend, join the social DFS movement, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON for a free $5 entry into any NCAA basketball contest. Remember the code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into the back of your TV, like I have plugged into the back of my TV in my living room. Just saying. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, which, by the way, it is, or the college basketball tournament, which, by the way, it is, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Just saying. It's nonsensical to not have it. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro sports leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, opening day, just saying 15 games tomorrow. 15 MLB games. I'm just saying. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Just trust me on this. I don't lie. Just saying. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. And I am saying that I think Eugene Wilson III, Trey, is going to be a big-time improved player for the Florida Gators in 2024. And I want to make this abundantly clear. I am not talking about his stats, okay? I'm not. I'm talking about film. That's what I'm saying here. With Trey, I think that on film he'll be abundantly better. And part of that is because I think he's going to get to do this wild thing called play wide receiver, right? Like Trey Wilson last year is great statistically, right? He had an awesome statistical year for a true freshman coming in. That was a mid-year enrollee. He was great as a gadget. And when you look at when he was given the opportunity to play wide receiver, he did that pretty well. Like, I keep going back to the touchdown he had against Georgia. I get it. It was still close to the line of scrimmage. He ran that motion across the field, and like the jet motion that we saw him do all the time. He ran the jet motion. He ran a little dig route, caught the ball, and outran everybody. And so it was still him doing the catch and run stuff. But first off, it was a catch beyond the line of scrimmage against Georgia, and then he outran everyone. Arkansas, you could talk about the first touchdown of the game. was they came out in that bunch set on the right. He ran the wheel, touchdown. Like downfield, they threw a touchdown to him. Stuff like that, pretty impressive. And I do think that that's something where Trey can probably do that pretty consistently. Like, I think that when you look at what you have in the receiving room right now, you lost Ricky Pearsall, which again sucks. Like losing wide receiver one sucks. But I do think that when you look at what Florida brought in, specifically Jure Tank Hawkins, I think that you opened the door for Trey Wilson to play receiver more. And yes, I understand he played receiver last year technically. I'm saying to actually run routes deep downfield because again, that's just not something that he did in 2023. Like his average depth of target, 3 yards. I think it's 2.8. That's nothing. That's a gadget. He's a gadget receiver. For someone that had 71 targets. Like you can't have 61 catches on 71 targets and convince me you are playing receiver. You're not going to be open enough for that. You're not going to be close enough to your QB for them to make that throw consistently, even if it's Tom Brady. If you're running downfield, it's going to happen. There's going to be incompletions there. 10 incompletions for Trey Wilson. His average depth of target was 2.8 yards. He was throwing the ball within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, the overwhelming majority of his completions, of his targets. So it's just, I mean, he had 8 yards after the catch per catch, and he had 9 yards per catch. That means on average, 1 yard downfield for his catches. Not targets, catches. 1 yard downfield. Okay. With Ricky Pearsall gone, you do have that crosser that Billy Napier loves so much is going to be open. You're going to have a lot opening up. Posts are going to open up. Everything is going to open up with Ricky Pearsall gone. Someone has to step into that role. And love Khalil Jackson. He's not that kind of receiver. Maybe we see Chimere Dike do it or Andy Jean do it. I think the most likely one is that you just lost your slickest route runner and your slickest mover. Probably put your now slickest route runner and slickest mover in there in Trey Wilson and let him actually run downfield. You could still do some of the gadgety stuff. Like you don't have to remove that from the game, from his game, or from your offense. You could still have Trey Wilson do all that. It's just maybe have him do it a little bit less. And I mentioned Jure Hawkins. Have him do that gadgety stuff. He's a freak of nature with his speed. Get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage and let him run. Again, you could still let Trey do it. Hell, have Trey motion across with the jet motion and then have Jure Hawkins motion like at the end around motion that they love. And just be like, all right, good luck figuring out who we're giving the ball to here and just go nuts with it. Like you can do that. You can. Granted, you'd have to stop the motion, stop Trey Wilson's motion and then do the end around or just have Tank do the end around after you snap the ball. Don't want to get illegal substitute or illegal formation penalties, but just saying, you can get really creative with it. And I do think that they will and that they should. But Trey, and also all of this, when I'm saying he might not see an uptick in production, maybe less catches, because he had 61 catches compared to Ricky Pearsall's 65. And Trey was kind of force-fed the ball. When he's going to be running routes downfield more consistently, you'll probably see less catches, lower completion percentage when he's targeted, more yards, maybe the same amount of touchdowns, about 6. Maybe we see that climb to 8 or 9. But you'll probably see yards per catch increase with average depth of target increasing as well. Obviously, yards after the catch could stay the same at 8. Like he could do that. That wouldn't shock me at all. He didn't drop the ball last year, forced a ton of missed tackles. Like he can still do all of that. Just get him the ball downfield. And you can make the argument that he'd be better after the catch there because if he catches the ball downfield and there's just a corner to beat or a corner and then a safety, that's it. He's not worried about, I have to get the ball from behind the line of scrimmage downfield now. That's not going to be a thing. So you can make the argument that he'd be even more dynamic after the catch where he can make a man miss and then just outrun people to the end zone. That's his responsibility at that point. So I do think that Trey Wilson, again, stats might not improve. I do think his film will a lot because he'll be actually playing wide receiver. And so I think he's going to be one of the most improved Florida Gators. We have to go to the defensive side of the ball, which when I was preparing for this, I was like, hopefully we'll have a couple of defensive guys. And then I was like, well, Graham has to be there. Trey has to be there. But there's another guy that does have to be there. We'll talk about in just a quick second. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it farther than the rest, and just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. And I'm going with the NC State Wolfpack because holy crap, right? Like they're obviously, guess which Nissan I'm naming? It's the Nissan Rogue. Duh, right? Like they surprised everybody with first. I didn't think they were winning their first game. Just when they drew Texas Tech, I was like, okay, NC State's out. But they won that one. Then they beat Oakland, who was everyone's dream team. Like after that Kentucky win, everyone's like, oh my God, Oakland's going to be the team that makes a deep run. And NC State is like, we are. And so they eliminated Oakland there. And now they get to play Marquette, which, by the way, Florida would have played Marquette had they beaten Colorado. Just want to say that. And then maybe they'd be playing NC State in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Golden Grizzlies have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure at shopnissanusa.com. With passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guarantee Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash for all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car to the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And the final player, like I said, we're going to defense. Final player that I do think will be the most improved, or one of the most improved Florida Gators this year, safety, Jordan Castell. And I know that he's someone who last year at the start of the year, we were like, oh man, like he's playing great. And then he kind of tapered off towards the end there. And I think that's a pretty common thing to see where a true freshman steps in. They have to carry a big workload because, again, he played more snaps than anyone on the defense. Jordan Castell played more snaps than anyone on the Florida Gators defense. Okay? He took 74 snaps off the entire season. 74 out of 12 games. Okay? Like I'm going to do a little bit of quick math here and say that that's not many, right? 6 snaps per game. On average, Jordan Castell took off 6 snaps per game. And I'm willing to bet a good deal of those came against, McNeese, he played 27 snaps. Charlotte, he played 41 snaps. Vanderbilt, he played 39 snaps. Yeah. But you look at Arkansas, he played 83 snaps. 83. And he played damn well. He had a couple of little mix-ups and little screw-ups, but he played damn well for the most part. And I think he learned a valuable lesson. I do think that was the game where we really saw him kind of taper off. After that game, which was physical as hell, is where he kind of tapered off, and it made sense. He played almost 90 snaps of a very physical game. Hard to just bounce back like that when you have a game the next week, right? And it was the SEC schedule of like Georgia, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, Florida State. Like it was this stretch from hell. And like I've mentioned this before, and I stand by it. Having a full season of tape for him is huge. Like it's going to be huge for someone like Jordan Castell, who, by the way, that was his first year being a full-time safety. Played corner in high school. So first year being a full-time safety. First year as a starter. And this is the time where you're able to get an honest evaluation of him and kind of attack the offseason with that mindset. And I say honest evaluation because, and we've talked about this with the edges, like Kelby Collins, who now plays the interior, but TJ Searcy, guys like that, where they came in for 15 snaps a game, bounced out, or they came in, had a few reps of just high energy, high quality play, and then bounced out. We never really saw them play enough where they had to get worn down. So you don't know what they're really going to be as full-time starters. With Jordan Castell, he was a full-time starter the entire year. So you get to watch that film and you get to go, hey, this is what he did as a full-time starter. We're not looking at just what he did when he was full go. We're not looking at just what he did when he was coming off the bench, pass down specialist, or whatever it may be. No, we're looking at what he was as a full-time starter in every situation, winning, losing, run-heavy team, pass-heavy team, no matter what it was. We're looking at the full body of work here for Jordan Castell. And you get to go into the year with that evaluation, having someone like Will Harris who gets to look at that and kind of have like a fresh set of eyes on it and say, hey, this is the plan that we need to put in place to get Jordan Castell to where he has to go. Okay, like this is how we get more out of him. And so I think Jordan Castell gets to do that and gets to kind of look at what he did last year, look at that body of work that he put on film, and mold himself and become a bit better Florida staff, more fittingly, gets to mold him to what they need him to be. Also, can we talk about improved defensive back play next to him? Nothing against RJ Moten, who's now playing linebacker. Nothing against Bryce Thornton, who I don't anticipate starting this year. But you bring in Asa Turner, you bring in DJ Douglas, like you brought in Trickwise Bridges, you brought in a few guys who are going to elevate your safety play because hopefully Jordan Castell won't have to play 660 snaps this year. And if he does, hopefully it's because he's playing less snaps per game, but we're out of the bowl game. You know, just saying. I wouldn't hate that. But you've got improved defensive back play next to Jordan Castell. Hopefully more rotation will keep him from hitting that wall that he hit at about 500 snaps, we'll say. And also, like we've talked a lot about how bringing in Joey Slackman, bringing back Cam Jackson will improve linebacker play because then linebackers' jobs are now easier. Bringing in Joey Slackman, bringing back Cam Jackson, bringing in someone like Pup Howard, bringing back Shamar James, having those front players, that front seven in air quotes, but really front six the huge majority of the time, having that improved front seven in front of him will make his job easier. Mostly in run support, but also in coverage. He doesn't have to worry about coming down and help guys as frequently, which was a thing that Florida's safeties had to do last year quite a bit. Also, you could argue that they shouldn't have been coming down so much, and they should have just been like, all right, let the play happen in front of us. Let's make a tackle afterwards. Which, I mean, you look at the Utah play with Money Parks, if I'm not mistaken, that was RJ Moten came down to help someone after Miguel Mitchell got beat on a corner route. And then when RJ Moten was trying to recover and make the play on Money Parks, he then took out Jason Marshall Jr., and that's when Money Parks scored the 70-yard touchdown. So I don't blame Jason Marshall Jr. for the 70-yard touchdown. I blame him for the big catch, but, I mean, he could have made a tackle afterwards if RJ Moten didn't light him up. Just want to PTSD moment there, just me just like sitting there, just flashback to the ball in the air and then flashback to RJ Moten just taking Jason Marshall Jr. out at the ankles. And it was just hell of a play. Great play there. But I do think that with improved DB play around him and improved front seven play in front of him, Jordan Castell is in better position to succeed this season. And I do think that he will. And I also considered putting Jakeem Jackson on this list as someone who, again, in another year, his second year of playing or third year of playing full-time corner, will take that next step, hopefully. There's a lot of candidates for this. Like, this should be a much improved Florida Gators team based on 2023 film going into 2024. A lot of room to grow. And with as much youth as there was, it makes sense to go, they should take a jump. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33, and I'll see you all next time.